Welcome to Moon and Fire. I'm Emily Bailey, the founder of Whole and Wild, where I guide women back to their sacred wisdom through ritual and cyclical living. This is a podcast for women ready to remember their sacred cycles, reclaim their radiant fire, and unleash their intuitive magic. Today, I am deeply honored to be in conversation with Yvette Trujillo, who brings such powerful wisdom about what it means to honor how we show up and love ourselves exactly as we are while working towards our own evolution. What I find so compelling about Yvette's journey is how she's navigating significant life transitions, stepping into a career she's dreamed about for over 2 decades, moving to a new city, all while managing a chronic autoimmune disorder, and doing it from a place of deep self acceptance and authentic power. Yvette speaks beautifully about no longer needing to exist within a binary, but instead choosing the side of love, acceptance, and possibility. Her message that there is nothing wrong with us, that we're simply in our natural becoming, feels like such medicine for women who have been told they're too much or not enough. Yvette, thank you so much for joining me in the sacred space today.
Thanks for having me, Emily. It's really good to be here.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. So, you are just in such an incredible season of life right now, stepping into a career that you've worked toward for over 2 decades while navigating a move to a new city and managing your autoimmune condition. Could you share more about this period of transformation and what's teaching you about honoring your own rhythms?
Yeah. So this, just pick everything, all the hard things, and put them in a basket and move in that direction. That's really. I mean, I didn't really think about it when I started to explore the possibility of this. But I got a really good, 2x4 on the back of the head from a dear friend of mine who I just trust for her honesty and always just has this tendency to kick my butt, right? When I'm dragging my feet or when I start complaining. And right before I get tired of my own story that she tends to do this. And so, I was complaining and moaning and groaning about not living into the fullness of the desire that I had in my heart, which is ministry. And I got the call to ministry back at the end of 1990s, so 1998, about there when I got the call to ministry. And I go at my own pace. I am from New Mexico, and we call this the land of mañana, which is the land of tomorrow. It's we've got our own pace here, and I'm from New Mexico, so that's like in my DNA. It's in my blood, and so I have always kind of operated on a slower pace. And so I've taken it just little bite by little bite by little bite by little bite. But there was something at the end that wasn't about my pace, wasn't about honoring myself and, really taking the time to understand where I was in the moment and what my next step was. Right. Like I'm very careful about that. But what it was turning into just felt like this taffy, this
Mm.
elongated experience that wasn't so much about honoring my time. It was about fear. It was really about fear. And, I had this idea that I would be a wonderful minister, but I think that there was a part of me that was afraid that I wouldn't be. That I had this grand idea of what I had inside me and what I had to give. And when you have to test that out in reality, that was just really scary for
Uh,
me.
yeah, that's such a good way to say that too, when you have to test it out in reality. I like that.
Ooh, yeah, testing it out in reality was, I was so sure, and sometimes I felt really cocky, just like, oh, I'm going to be great at this, and yet I'm not doing it for no real reason. For no real reason is what I got clear on. And so my friend was just like, you keep waiting. She shared the story with me of the person that is in a flood, and the police come by and say, we're going to take you away because there's a flood coming, and there's a big storm, and you got to get out of here. And we're like, no, 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 God's going to save me. And then somebody comes by on a boat and you're on, you're like, wait a minute, this is scary, but God's going to save me and don't worry about it. They come by on a helicopter and you're like, never mind, it's fine. God has me. And then up in heaven, it's like, what happened? I was waiting for God to save me. Why didn't you show up? Like I sent a police officer, I sent a guy on a boat, and I sent a helicopter. I was there the whole time.
Uh,
And it really forced me to take a look at where were the opportunities in my life
mm,
to be able to step in, to be able to embrace being new and unskilled at something
mm,
that I know I have skill for, but when you're new at something, you can really stink at it, right? And I was terrified of the new. I realized I was terrified of not being as good as I thought I would be. And our conversation really helped me to realize that I it's okay to be new. It's okay to mess up. It's okay. And I know this, right? I know this, but when I was applying it to my own life, it felt foreign. It didn't feel like my own idea. It didn't feel like something that I embrace so wholly. And so I made a phone call and I said, hey, is this pulpit that you've been talking to me about still open? I'm not sure yet, but I just want to know information. And that was February of this year.
Wow.
February of this year is when I when I had that conversation. And here I am. It's August, and I've been here since the end of May. So we packed up our house, we put it up for sale. We all the whole thing. My wife and I did all of this, and it felt like it took so long. And then I think back to, when did I actually say yes to this? And it was 2 seconds ago. And here I am, and I'm living into it. And it was so much harder than I had imagined. It was
Mm.
and I'm glad I didn't know it was so much harder to pack up a house, to sell a house, to try and buy another house. I'd never done that, at the same time. And my body wasn't cooperating, and I was afraid and doubting myself the entire way. Um, but the beauty of the experience, the most beautiful example of this experience, has been that all of that was happening. It was really hard. It was physically challenging. My body would poop out. I was trying to pack in a particular way because I've done it lots. And I was, waiting to feel better because I had no energy. My body was in incredible pain. And I'm a very independent person. It's been very hard for me to ask for help. I'm like, I want to do it by myself. I'm working on that one. I'm getting better, but asking for help was really hard. And I got to the point where it's like, you now, even if you had all access to your physical ability, you can't do this. You can't pack this house in the amount of time that you need. And so I forced to ask for help, which was really hard. And I sent a text out to my friends. And I said, here's the situation. I'm not well. I'm not feeling well. And I've got to get this done. Who out there can come and help me? So I did this in community. And I'm saying that now for the first time and realizing that I did this in community. And what I longed for most in life is to be a part of community. And I've had trouble having that. I've had trouble allowing that for myself, and allowing myself to fully step into that, because when you have real belonging, it's a give and take, right? I belong to you, you belong to me, we support each other, and I'm really fine with supporting you, but I'm not great at letting you support me. So I had to look at my body and say, wow, okay, and there's nothing wrong here. This just is what is. I need to ask some people for help. I woke up to the fact that I had community, and that I could ask for help. And that was just like, these were just the beginning steps of this journey. And every step of the way, which is the most beautiful piece, is that I have been able to sit with the thing that before would have crushed me, to think that I was failing, to think that I wasn't enough, to think that somehow, you think culturally, it's like, oh, you think you're so good. What do you think you can step into this thing that is so big and so beautiful? You can't do. That's how I would have translated it before. And this time, I just had to pause every once in a while and be like, okay, it's just a challenge. It's just something that came up as a thing you don't know how to navigate
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Yvette. And I hear the tenderness in, yeah, I have two things. One, just the way that you're expressing something that I think is really common, right? Like there's something in the air that says it's honorable to be in the position of giving, and it's dishonorable to be in the position of receiving.
Mhm.
Right. And there's so many layers of lies inside of that. That's actually something I'm really passionate, so I love that you brought it up. Um, but to hear the tenderness in your journey of this is the only way through, right? That being said, there probably were other choices,
Sure.
but this is the resonant way through, and it's the wholehearted way through, even though it might also be the most vulnerable way through, right?
Right. Right. And it was a really interesting experience too, that I so I've had snippets and ideas and images of and ways of thinking that would align with me accepting my whole self and being gentle with myself. But it really wasn't until I could embody it in the work that you and I did through Rewilded, to be
Mhm.
able to look at all the ways that I was criticizing myself and all the ways that I was making myself wrong just for the way that I was being.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
who I was being, I was criticizing and making wrong, but that's me. And when we did the work together, Rewilded, and I got to take a look at my domestication, right? All the things that I was told about who I should or shouldn't be, the ways that I should show up, the ways that I should be a professional, the ways that I should be a woman, the ways that I should, should. And I began to tear those ideas away with your help. I got to really embody the thing that I'd known about people, right? Your perfection, your wholeness, all of those things I knew and I believed about other people, but I didn't believe them about myself. I was still criticizing myself and holding myself up to a standard that didn't ever take me into consideration when it was built.
Oh, that right there. That's such a powerful statement. Wow. Thank you for sharing that we worked together and rewilded. Yeah. So this was 2023 into 2024. Yeah, I'm thinking of yeah, just the incredible deliberate work that you've done to I really think not just pave the way for your own flourishing, but to also make way for others to hear a message that I don't think is very common in our culture, right? Can you share more about that? Like what do you feel like has risen up in you as a message to others out of
Mhm.
the work that you've done?
I mean, I think in that awareness, right? That big awareness that the world built its structures, it built the way that we access things, the way that we do. I mean, I'm even talking about going to the grocery store and where we park. Where, how do the doors open? What can I reach? What can I reach? What can I read? What can't I read? Like all the ways in the world that we have structures and ideals of the way that we do things. When I started to really look at that and say, I struggle with this one and this one and this one and this one, and I made it about me,
Mm,
right? I made it about what's wrong with me that I'm having trouble in navigating the world in these various ways. And what getting really clear about that has given me is I get to show up with other people, especially in this leadership position where people come and talk to me about, I'm struggling, I'm challenged, I'm having this, I'm having that, to be able to say, you're perfectly fine. And like really believe it at a level that is even beyond what I learned through my training, to become a minister. But it is this experience of I've lived tearing away at all of those, or as many as I've faced. I continue to tear away at them all the time, but I've lived through that. And on the other side of it is so much freedom, even though the world doesn't give me permission to engage in a way that's aligned with what I understand now, right? It's not saying, oh, you're neurodivergent, so let's change it up here so that you can, access information in a particular way. But because I lived through that disassembling of a structure that I just assumed was the best structure and the
mm,
best way, now when people come to me, there's no doubt in my mind, no doubt in my mind. If they're struggling and they're having trouble, I'm like, you are doing your best.
mm.
And where you're beating yourself up could be in the area of the world not considering you. And can you just take that in for a minute? Because for me, it was so profound. It's like this, the rules weren't made for you.
Yes.
They didn't take you into consideration when the rules were made. And so what I do as a leader, as a spiritual leader, is I create a container where people can explore that idea and not feel like they're somehow betraying a system or not being appreciative of the benefits that they have in this world or the privilege that they have in the world, right? It's in this specific dynamic. Can you see that the world didn't take you, your situation, your whatever the dynamic is, into consideration? You're not wrong. You just live in a world that doesn't honor that.
Yeah. That's
And how powerful is that when you begin to reframe your current challenge? It for me, it changed everything. It changed everything. It changed the way that I view my chronic disorder. It changed the way that I view the way that I learn because I'm neurodivergent and I like have trouble reading and processing information. Like all these things that before looked and felt like there's something wrong with me became, how do I then take care of myself? And it gave me permission to look for other ways for me and not wait for or feel bad about so much the world not giving me something. Not that it shouldn't provide access to things, but in this moment, my job is to care for me. How do I create a world for myself where I take into consideration all the things that I am and optimize my world? I optimize my world. I do it for myself because I love me.
yeah.
And I share that love for myself all the time, right? So I call myself pumpkin or sweet pea, right? It's like, oh, but I'm having a hard time, or I make a mistake, or I bit it, whatever. It's like, oh, pumpkin. Yeah, yeah, okay. Okay, so what are we gonna do about that now? Right? Like it comes from such a loving place. And Emily, before the way that I spoke to myself, I remember we were part of part of Rewild. I did the exercise that I actually biffed, which
Yeah.
was we decided together of standing in front of a mirror, right? You didn't say I had to do it, but I took it on. Standing in front of the mirror and saying that I love myself. Just staring at myself in a mirror and saying that I love myself. And I could not do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. My self-talk was so hideous. I
Mhm.
could not access that. And now I never actually did that exercise. But
Mhm.
what evolved over time is, for me, that exercise now is like, oh, sweetheart. Oh, pumpkin. Like,
Uh,
it's okay. And every once in a while, it just happened last week, I'll make a mistake that's pretty big, and I will hear the creeping of the nastiness that I used to deal with all the time. One, it's shocking.
yeah.
It's shocking to hear and realize that's what I did all the time. But what comes up is like, no, no, we don't do that anymore. We do not do that anymore. And I am like this mama bear for myself. It's like, you can't talk to my child that way. It becomes that, like pounding your mother. So you're like, I get that. I have become so protective of myself from that old voice that believed that the old structures and the old ways and the things that were built without my consideration were the law. And it's like, you are not allowed here.
I love that, Yvette. And I'm curious, just hearing the liberation that you're describing is it um it's this beautiful crescendo, right? And I'm wondering, would you mind sharing like what is available to you now
Mm.
because these things have shifted?
I mean, the first thing that comes to me is anything.
I love
Anything is available to me now, and I do feel the pull for something more. I'm experiencing a pull to something more, which is really astounding and profound for me, because I've just stepped into this thing that I've wanted for so long, and it felt like such a big leap. And in reality, the step of yes was a huge leap. But the work itself, I've been working on for almost 3 decades. Right? 1998 was when I first got the call. And so, like, I have been working towards this for a really long time. The lived experience of doing the work is in my blood. It is. I mean, I'm new and I'm still, I biff it and I do all the things, um, but I feel the call to something more. And I think through all of the times, the experiences that I've had since especially since you and I started working together, of taking the risk and doing, gives me all of this data that I can do it. I have all this data that um that I can have a chronic illness that debilitates me sometimes, and sometimes for a long period of time. I can have foggy brain and not be able to process information and understand what people are saying. It's big. Like, it's serious, the experience that I have. And it is debilitating. And that's just my experience. And that is not a factor to consider anymore when I want to experience something, try something new, go in a different direction, or deepen in a specific direction. And that has changed my life.
Wow.
Changed my life, because I'm open now, as I can feel the call in my heart. I can feel the pull towards something, and I don't know what it is yet. I don't have clarity about it, but I've been sensing it and feeling it. And what I know is that I can say yes from here. I can say yes to the mystery of this call. I don't know what it is yet fully. I feel it to be a big stretch for me, but I can say yes from here without having to go through the litany of, well, what if it needs you to show up in a particular time, in a particular way, and have all your faculties, and who are you going to have to apologize to because you have a flare, or any of those things like that. Just, even as I'm saying it, I'm like, wow, I don't think about those things anymore. What I do is I say, hey, I was going to do this, and actually, I'm not going to be able to do that today. I
Mm,
apologize if that causes any problems for you. That was not my intention.
uh,
But when can we schedule something else?
yeah.
And that's it. That's it. It's not sitting in shame. It's not like dragging myself to the phone or the computer to say, oh my God, I'm so horrible and I'm the worst, and I can't believe that I'm having to do this to you and to inconvenience you. You're welcome that we get to work together.
Yes.
You're welcome that we get to work together. And sometimes working with me means that we're going to need to reschedule some things.
Yes, Yvette. Oh, that is so powerful.
And I truly, not all the time, Emily, that doesn't happen all the time, but the dominant experience is one of no longer feeling apologetic about the way that this body shows up and this mind shows up. It's just, I have to navigate some stuff.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Uh, one of the things that you shared in our questionnaire that you filled out before this was you shared a powerful tool about self mastery, catching and shifting thought patterns. Could you walk us through this practice and share how it supported you, especially during the challenging times that you're sharing about?
Yeah. I actually learned this tool from the philosophy that I follow from my spirituality, which is Centers for Spiritual Living is our organization, and it's all the science of mind. And what it is this aspect of self mastery is learning that we can control our thoughts. And I didn't know that before. I thought that's crazy. These thoughts just come. I have no control over them. And what I realized is that I do. And the way that it was taught to me visually is, you walk down this street every day, and there's a big pothole or a big manhole, and the manhole cover is off of it, and you walk and you fall in, right? And you're in there, and you're like, wow, what happened? Where am I? What's going on? And then at some point, you begin to realize, like, oh, I was walking down the street, and I fell into this hole. Oh, there was a hole, and so now I have a different understanding. I zoomed out and I see the landscape a little bit better, right? But with intention of trying to understand what's happening in my life. And then you go up another day, and after something, you're still walking and you fall in the manhole. And then after a while, you walk up to the manhole and you're like, oh, that's the thing that I've been falling in. And then you step in and you fall into it because that's what you've always done. But you realize that before you stepped in, you had a choice. You had a choice to step into that hole or not. And so the loving and generous way of understanding it is like, yeah, I'm gonna fall in. I'm not gonna know what's happening. I'm gonna wake up to understand that there's something happening. I'm actually going to then see the thing that's happening, and I'm still gonna make the choice to jump in. But at some point, you can stand at the edge of that hole, look down, and say, "Oh, I don't want to do that anymore," and
Wow.
you walk around because you know then that you've been making the choice. And so what happened for me was that I began to realize that the habitual patterns of thinking that I was having were creating for me an experience that was not the experience that I wanted to have. I was thinking that, the world wasn't fair, and it wasn't, I was always getting shafted, or it was never working out, and I was always so unlucky, and what was going on, and the world was after me, and there was never enough, and I didn't have enough money, and I didn't have enough career breaks, and oh my gosh, I ruined the whole thing by not finishing college. Like, I just had these habitual ways of thinking, all these manholes that I was jumping into. And what I began to realize was that I'm making a choice to think of that. I'm making a choice to think, oh, I ruined my life because I didn't finish college. And so by thinking that habitually, now the world demonstrates to me all of the ways that I messed up my life and I don't have the options that I would have otherwise because all I'm thinking about is that.
Yeah.
And so what bubbles up into my conscious awareness is the confirmation that that's the truth. And when I begin to shift the story and say, I'm not going to jump into that manhole, I'm going to walk around. What does walking around look like? Well, I didn't finish school, but you know what? I learned a lot while I was there.
Mm.
Learned a ton. And actually, the road less traveled that I did choose to go down, which wasn't completing school because it wasn't working for me, it has been hard. But my God, have I learned? I've learned so much by going this way instead of that way. And so, what I started to do in that example is I started to explore. Instead of saying I was wrong and I messed up my whole life and I made such a bad decision and oh, this is why I suffer, I started to see all the ways that it served me and the ways that it grew me and the ways that it helped me to be a better person and to develop tenacity and to develop a different way of processing information and all of these things that came out of that experience. That's what I started to think about instead of how I messed up my life. And when I started to do that, the world shifted. The world shifted. And what I began to experience and see was then confirmation of all of the good things, right? I have tenacity. I learned how to navigate this world in a different way. And now I get to see examples of that was powerful. That was awesome.
Yes.
You would be, because of all those things, you would be amazing for this job. Apply. Do you have a degree? No. Apply anyway. Like it expanded my life. So when I began to do that in all the different ways that I was thinking in a way that hurt me and made me small and made me feel less than, when I started to retrain myself and take on that self mastery of taking control of my thoughts to say, I want to think a different thing because I want to have a different experience.
Ah,
And if you do that, I think what happened, and people say, oh, you think that you control the world and that now your the world changes because you're thinking this way. No, I think that so many options are available, but when I see and I'm looking in this direction that is only about the pain and the hardship and the challenge, all I can see are things that affirm the pain, the hardship, and the challenge. And when I shift my gaze and I open the possibility, now what bubbles up in my conscious awareness are the things that support the good. They were always there, I just couldn't see them. And so that for me is the most valuable tool, is to be able to change the focus of my attention to something that enlivens me, something that expands me, something that affirms me. And then I have the feedback of a world and a life that says, yeah, yes, my beloved, yes, that is the life you can have. Or the other way, I messed up and it's terrible. Yes. I mean, it just says yes. You just see the things that are available to you when you open your mind to it and when you can shift your habitual ways of thinking.
thank you so much for sharing. Wow. And yeah, I deeply believe that our habits and practices form and shape us into certain kinds of people. And I think that's such a specific way to say it, even with what we're able to see is influenced by the way we consider ourselves and talk to ourselves and think. Exactly. That's so powerful. What would you say to the woman who's in the midst of her own natural becoming, but feels scared or uncertain about the changes she's experiencing?
Mm. Nobody ever knows. We have an idea that the people that have been successful at navigating their lives, or that it looks successful on the other side, they didn't know. They did not know. Your not knowing is not a shortcoming. It's natural. Your not knowing isn't evidence that you can't. It's just the way that it is. The world is uncertain.
Mm,
Do it anyway.
so good. Oh, I bet your words carry so much warmth and just the medicine of being seen and accepted just as we are. Thank you for this. How can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work and your journey?
So I am at the Center for Spiritual Living in the heart of Las Cruces. That's the community that I am leading. That's csl-lascruces.org. And I can be reached there. You can reach out to me there. And you can also reach me at my email there. And that's just Yvette at csl-lascruces.org.
I love that. Yvette, thank you so much for bringing such authentic, powerful medicine to our Moon and Fire community today. Your reminder that we can honor, I love the words that you specifically said, that we can honor exactly how we show up and continue to evolve, and that there's nothing wrong with us, that we're simply in our own natural becoming, is such profound wisdom. I'm really grateful for your courage in speaking your truth and modeling it, what it looks like to choose love and acceptance and possibility over conformity.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And thank you, Emily, for the way that we walked this together. Right? You and I walked this together, and that was a profound shift for me. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was such an honor to have you in the Rewilded coaching experience. And yeah, I'm actually opening the doors for that experience right now. And so is there anything you would say to someone who might be considering that?
Oh my gosh, this work of dismantling is so powerful. Dismantling this hologram that we live in, right? Like, this is how it goes. This is what you should do. This is the best way. This is the ideal. Like, that is all just such crap. It's crap. It's a lie. And we've honestly fallen into believing it.
Mm,
And this work of rewilding takes that all apart in a really loving and gentle way, right? Like, dismantling sounds scary, but dismantling all of that in a really gentle and loving way at your pace is such a profound piece of work that has you, then you're not just changed, the world you live in changes. The world you live in changes because now you get to build it.
yeah.
It's powerful. I would recommend this work to any woman and every woman that I know. And I do.
Thank you so much, Yvette, for your authenticity. I think that word is really one of the key associations I have with you, is just your willingness to be who you are wherever you are. And yeah, I love how you shared earlier the unapologeticness for, this is, if you want to be with me, this is this is who it is, right? This is who I am and where I am and what I have to offer in all of the range of me. And I think, yeah, it's just such an honor to receive that message from you. Thank you. So if you're curious to hear more about Yvette's journey or just simply connect, and if you were drawn to the medicine of her warm voice, she is wonderful to be with as well. Remember the sacred cycles, reclaim your radiant fire, unleash your intuitive magic. Thank you for being here, sacred woman. Until next time.